Going, everybody? Okay, enough of that here tonight. So this is this first time I've gone live. I did a little live, to try it out a couple weeks ago. And if you're a person from way back, and this is my dog Sutton, you'll remember that I used to do a show on Facebook called Tunes Day Off, and I would just play tunes on a Friday night, usually around 6 o'clock or so, and we just have fun and play some tunes, tell some stories. And I stopped doing that after a while. Got kind of bored with it and got a new job and everything. Of course, that'll take over a lot of stuff. But I thought I'd go live here with the dogs and just chill out. Sorry for the mess back there. I was thinking about this today, and I thought I'll just get on here and go live, chill with the gang, see if anybody tunes in or not. And but that first thing you heard there was a tune called "Boom" by Charles Treneau. It was introduced to me by a radio show host down here in Delaware, and he used to play it every Friday night at around 5 o'clock. And I don't know why he did, but it was just his Friday thing. And yes, I know, girls, I know. Can you go lay down? Yeah, that'd be great. I usually chill out here and have a little, and listen to that song still every Friday night. So, but I just thought I'd come here, hang out, and chill out. I don't know if anybody's watching. I don't think they are, but you might see this on the re-upload. But I always enjoy with life in general, telling stories and storytellers. I've growing up with trains, you kind of end up being a Thomas fan in general, and that is one reason why I got into trains. Is my dad actually was watching Shining Time Station on PBS before I was even born, because he thought, well, this is cool. These stories with these trains, they have faces made out of models. This is cool, because he was into toy trains and everything back then, and it was just something kind of neat. So it's a big story thing, with all the Thomas stories and whatnot. So I was thinking, I thought, it'd just be kind of nice just get on here, chill out, talk with the gang. I'm very informal with this. I'm just shooting this on my iPhone, in a very cluttered train room / porch. And you got my dogs out here and everything. But I hope everybody's having a good Friday. It is Good Friday this year, and if you celebrate, we're waiting for Sunday now. But I'm just thinking about just getting to know you guys a little bit better too. I've always thought about doing a introductory video of who I am and how life goes. I do this very informally, as I said, iPhone with iMovie, and so I would like to, and say you're just sitting here looking at me doing this, that be running trains, and maybe someday I'll get a microphone and an actual camera, and then you can actually I can talk trains too, which would be kind of fun. And I will run some trains for you if my camera, if my phone lasts long enough so they don't rattle on much. But yeah, the way the light is all the time, you just don't get to do the things you want to do all the time. So I've never got around to my ugly mug here, and we'll just chill out here on a Friday night. It's beautiful. It's actually beautiful here, which is unusual here for whatever reason in Delaware. It always rains on Good Friday, and it did not rain. It was beautiful weather this Good Friday. Very unusual, but like I said, I am from Delaware, second smallest state, and born and raised here. A lot of people move here, which is fine. Gotta have an economy going and all that kind of stuff. But it's a great little place. I see why a lot of people like move here. But the railroads that were around here, since this is a train channel, the railroads that were here was basically before all these short. Pennsylvania Railroad came in and dominated everything down on this end of the state. Were just a whole lot of short lines, and then they all got merged into Pennsylvania Railroad. So that's one reason why you see a lot of Pennsylvania Railroad things on my layout, or you'll see, like on our shirts we have the turbines, and that's not exactly the reason why. It was had to do with my uncle, which I'll get into that in a bit. the thing that the thing that kind of got me started in this, well, got everybody in my family started, was my grandfather, and he bought a Marx, I believe 1938. And for those of you that don't know Marx was at that time was all tin plate trains, all lithographed, and they were nice. They were cheap. They lived on a farm outside of Harrisonburg, Virginia. So being a farm boy, didn't have a lot of money, so Marx set. Eventually, did get some pre-war Lionel. This is all before. Got a Commodore Vanderbilt and a torpedo. One of the O-27 torpedoes, and ran those. And he was one of those, again, from being on the farm. When the new thing came out, he was done with the old stuff. So he wanted to run all that Lionel stuff, and he'd still pull his Marx cars with it too. There's pictures of that from after the war. My uncle was born. He had the trains out, had a layout there in the living room of their house in Baltimore. And but then my uncle got a turbine set, which is why we have the turbines on here on our shirts. The turbines always been a big important part of our hobby. But then my dad came along in '52, and he got a Burlington Jeep set, and that was kind of where things started. And then my father my mother said to my dad after they got married, say, hey, why don't you get your trains back out? So he started building layouts with his dad at his childhood house. There and everything. He kept the hobby going. My uncle got into TCA. They both got into TCA, and things kind of continued on from there. They knew a gentleman named Al Poppistle, who had a service center, Lionel Service Center, in there in Baltimore. Had a great repairman, and everything went well. My dad was into it, did a lot of repairs with Mr. Al, and I learned a lot from him. And unfortunately, Mr. Al died there in the 70s. I can't remember which year, but my dad really got, just kind of didn't want anything to do with it after that, just with having that loss of a good friend. So then I came along in '90, and I was born in August, and at Christmas, trains back out and had them underneath the tree. And I've seen video of this because obviously I don't remember any of it, but he got the trains out and put me in a tree in one of the swings. Everybody seemed to have like those swings when we were kids. A battery operated thing. He'd sit me down in that, and we'd just watch trains run. And so I've been hooked ever since. That's all I've ever really done is trains all my life. And I wanted to be a train engineer or work for the railroad in some way. And so I wanted to do that, and I enjoyed running. Dad and I built layouts. We finally built a room out in the garage, and so we had a permanent layout out there. And that was expanded upon when I was in 2000. And that layout was up for 20 years, a COVID casualty. At some point, I'll probably put a video together of old footage of that layout, because that was a neat layout. But that layout lasted until 20, and my dad said we got to do something different, so we tore it down, and we're currently building a new one, which you've seen some on the channel here. But we had a lot of fun doing that stuff. And then when I was 9, I was playing the clarinet, which is where the jazz part comes into. And I really wasn't sure if I wanted to play the clarinet or not. My dad had one from a family friend. He put on some Benny Goodman records, and we listened to that. And I said, I got to play clarinet now. So played clarinet solely from 4th grade all the way up till 8th grade. And when I got into 9th grade, I wanted to join the jazz band in high school. And the director said, hey, this is great, you want to be in jazz band, but I need you to play saxophone. I said, oh, that's great. I was already taking lessons, so privately, and he also played clarinet saxophone. So I got a saxophone from Mr. Eli, my band director, and he told me what to do. Clarinet and saxophone are very similar, so it was pretty easy to get started on it, at least. In fact, he gave it to me one night after a marching band rehearsal, and the next day in school I was playing parts in the jazz band on saxophone. It didn't sound great, but I was in there doing it, and it's just that the two instruments are very similar, which is nice for that. For a clarinetist to be able to pick that up relatively. Then it's just a trick of making it sound good, but that's another talk show. So anyway, I got doing that, and I really started liking to play the saxophone too, and I thought, you know, I could do something with this. This is, I'm halfway decent at doing this. I like practicing. I should, and it just kind of happened, and I just started pursuing a career in music, and to the point where, if you're familiar with the old TM videos, the story with the guys that had trains in the post-war era, they had trains when they were kids. Hi, girls. The girls have come back. They had trains when they were kids, and then they got interested in cars and girls. They got married, punched out a couple kids themselves, and then the trains came back out. And my story of that necessarily because I was always into trains. I was always going to York. I was always going to train shows. The only thing I could say is that I did slow down going out in the train room for a bit because I was practicing so much, and just enjoyed doing that. So please don't get stuck in there. I'm watching my one dog trying to get in her kennel and waiting for her to get stuck. Anyway, but anyway, so yeah, I was always interested in trains and kept doing it. In fact, when I went off to college, I trained jazz saxophone. I had a looper track. When I finally got a room of my own, I had a looper track in my dorm room that I would come home after I get done practicing late at night, run trains for a bit before I go to bed. So I've always been interested in this stuff, and it was with my dad, my uncle. My mom would get in it some. Most times she got into it when we were going on rides. She liked more riding the trains and found that more interesting than the toy stuff. But she likes the toy stuff too. And now I'm married, and my wife is into it. In fact, I believe now this is her with York coming up. She's gonna go to York for the first time. That'll be fun here next week, doing that. But yeah, it's always been a thing. And after college, I get out of college, I come home. I did odd job a little bit. I worked for a friend who is a roofing guy. Hi, Sutton. You want to talk some too? No? Okay. I worked with him for a bit. I gigged around here, with a lot of guys. I met some of the guys I still gig with now, and everything, during that time. And then a friend of mine from college, my best friend from college, he sent me an email. He says, "Hey, I got this audition for the Glenn Miller Orchestra. I'm looking for a tenor player. If you want to try out for it." I said, "Oh, okay. I love Glenn Miller stuff. This would be great." So I put together the tape and everything, or recordings, and I emailed it to them, and I ended up getting the job. And so, for those of you who don't know, Glenn Miller Orchestra, it's Glenn Miller's band. He started in '38, had it up through '42, and then went into Army Air Force and had a band there until, unfortunately, his plane crashed. We believe, because he went missing. We believe his plane crashed in '44, and we lost him. But the band continued on after his death through his wife and his lawyer, and the band's still out there touring. They're still out there. I'm not sure what they're doing now, because of course that thing that happened in '20. Not a lot of stuff, but at least when I was out there from 2013 through halfway through 17, the band was touring about 48 weeks out of the year. So I was living on the road, living out of a bus. It was great, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a lot of fun. But, it gets tiring after being, living on a bus for four and a half years. So I finally said, after about 4 years, I said, I've had enough of this, and I went into 2017 knowing that at some point I was going to put in my notice, and I did, and I came on home and gigged here, taught lessons, which I still do. I still teach lessons, and this thing is lagging a lot. So I have not seen anybody tuning in. So if you are, and I'm not seeing it, I'm hoping you're enjoying the show. I know I'm just rambling, but yeah, great experiences. I'll probably tell some of those experiences here on the show. I'm streaming. I'd like to do more of this. Chatting with you guys, and but I had a lot of great experiences, a lot of great training experiences too. We go to Japan every year, and that was a lot of fun. Lots of stories from over there, and but yeah, it's great. But I'm glad I came home and started working at the local music store and teaching lessons, and gigging, and doing all that stuff, and now I work for Music and Arts. So if you're if you know what Music and Arts is, or Guitar Center, the same company that owns Music and Arts. and I work for them as a educational representative. So I go out to the schools, and if they need repairs taken in or need to buy items, biggest thing we do is the rentals that the kids do at the beginning of the year. I'll do a lot of that with the students getting their rental instruments made. So the teacher has everything that they need, that kind of thing. It's a lot of fun, and I love driving. So my territory is a good portion of the state of Delaware up and down. So I love driving, so it doesn't bother me a bit. But it's a good job, and I'm happy to be doing that. I still gig and teach, like I said. I at some point we'll do some more music stuff on here, because I know there's some people that are here because they like the music, and I try to incorporate it into the videos too here with the trains, have some background music with jazz. And I think a lot of what goes along with, if you think about trains and with my channel, Trains and Jazz seems to fit along with trains and railroading. Country music definitely does. Of course, there's a lot of songs in the country catalog that are train songs. Orange Blossom Special, Casey Jones, anything like that. There's two that pop off my head, but I mean, there's tons of them. 900 Miles, but music and trains always kind of seem to go well together. So, and I know a lot of musicians that are train fans. In fact, on the original Glenn Miller Orchestra, one of the Billy May, which if you're a friend if you're a fan of Sinatra, of Billy May, great trumpet player and a great orator, and he wrote a lot of the arrangements for Sinatra. But he was an HO guy, and there's a picture in one of the books I have on of Billy May sitting in between sets, it was in a hotel. He's sitting there building an HO tank car kit, because remember back pre-war days, everything for HO you had to build, including the track. It was totally scratch building, kit bash and everything. And but it's always kind of seemed like this is just something that goes well together. So, like I said, I haven't really seen anybody here, but that doesn't mean I this for nothing. But yeah. So that's me. If you've enjoyed seeing stuff that I have posted, I'm going to have some more. Life's a pain in the butt sometimes. You got so much stuff going on, and so you can't always do everything you want to do, whether it's making videos or obviously cleaning my training room up here. But it's fun. I hope that you guys enjoy watching this stuff, and yeah. So one thing I would like to do with this, I'm not the greatest public speaker. I have a lot of this, that, and the other. I would like to do this too for myself, because I would like to be a better speaker. Again, like I said at the beginning with the Thomas stuff, I kind of want that for a little bit, but I started talking about it and I kind of got distracted, I think, with the dogs, and then came back to it. But I love storytelling, and one thing I've really gotten into lately, if you want to check it out, is listening to old Gene Shepard shows. So Gene Shepard, if that name sounds familiar but you're not really sure who it is, he is the guy that wrote the book that the movie A Christmas Story is based off of. And Gene Shepard is the narrator in the movie. So he's Ralphie reminiscing of when he was a kid at this Christmas. And he had a radio show from the late 40s after the war until I believe 75. And there's a channel on here on YouTube that has a ton of radio shows, and I've been listening to him a lot. But it's like, if you're a fan of the movie, which I'm a huge fan of that movie, that's all he does, just kind of talks about things that are going on. It's not political stuff, generally, but he's just telling stories about his trips or things that happened to when he was a kid, and that's kind of one thing I'd like to incorporate here a little bit. I enjoy telling stories, and and of course being a train guy, if there's something, if a new catalog comes out, I might talk about that, or if I buy something new, which we've bought a fair amount of new stuff here. I need to do some posts on that, but and of course York's coming up, so we'll have that and coming up. So get on here and chat, hang out. I don't know what to call it. I don't know, call it the Cody show, the Cody Trains and Jazz show, the happy hour with Cody, something, so if anybody's watching this, I'm going to re-upload this, so if anybody's watching this and they can think of a name, leave it down in the comments, and take it into consideration because I am not great at naming things. But anyway, so as long as my battery, which I don't have on my monitor, my phone here, as long as my battery's holding up, why don't we run some trains? It's going to take me a minute here, so let me. And drank too much of that. My favorite thing to do on a Friday night after I get off work. Sit down, like I said, I listen to that stupid little French song and chill out and have a few beverages and usually watch trains run. But anyway, let's flip this around here. I'm just going to do this so you guys don't get seasick. Real high-tech technology here. Using the old the thumb here. Okay, let's move that down. So everybody's been losing minds here lately over the lines here lately with the the New York Central Hudsons because RPB and Sid's trains have been they got together. It looks like they're gonna put out a video with them running their Hudsons, and so this was I just got this for Christmas. I might actually do a video on this one tonight, just talking about it and you know what it means to be and that kind of thing. But anyway, let me get the panel turned on here. Of course, they always start up in reverse, don't they? Sound system of the Hudson always reminds me of those TM videos that we all grew up watching. It's one of my favorite shots over here. I love that little tavern back there. My wife picked that up. Guy hand builds these buildings, everything. But it's got some neat decals on it and everything. I love that American Flyer one. You can kind of see it back in there. There we go. And in fact, that switch tower in the back there too just came from Sid's Trains. Thanks to him for that. It's actually possibly going to my dad and I's layout down at his house. But I just stuck it there for now just to make sure it was out of the way and didn't get trampled on here in the house. You know what I mean? Yeah, just been having some fun here. We'll do this real high-tech thing here again. Turn that around. There we go. Cool. You can see my messy back of my room here and my big old belly. Okay. So, I hope you've enjoyed the time here tonight. Like I said, I'm going to re-upload this. If you didn't catch it before, you can catch it on the re-upload. I'll see how smoothly this went too, because it looked like it was really lagging there for a bit. And I hope that my speaking skills are a bit better, so I'm not sitting here. Got to think about the words before I say them, right? That's usually what they tell you. If you're going to say just talking, think about what you're actually going to say and then say it. And just like that, I didn't say because I thought about it for a second. And then also, I know I need to not monotone so much. There's enough people that just all the time, and out there. I did it. It's weird how we do that. I remember that in college. They taught in the public speaking class I took. They said we only say because it's a nervous tick, because you don't know what to say. You start getting nervous, so you fill the dead air. Because I'm sitting here thinking, there's all these people, which, you know, I don't know how many people have been here watching this whole time, but there's all these people that are watching me, and they're thinking, gosh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So then, but, you know, I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you did, and you have any ideas, like I said earlier, for a title, because I have no idea what to call this, you know, maybe Happy Hour with Cody, I don't know. I'd like to do this, you know, once a week or whenever I can. I'd like to just hang out here and run some trains. And depending on how the audio was while I was running the train, I can get up close on the phone. I'll just run trains and talk to you. You're not sitting here looking at this the whole time, right? But anyway, and here's the dog. Nice something. So, as it were, we're Good Friday, and I know this was kind of all over the place, but I hope you and that you have a great Easter or Passover, whatever you celebrate, and I will see you all in the next one. But the next video hopefully will be soon, because I'm actually thinking about making something on that Hudson that's sitting there. So, anyway, once I get away from this dog here to keep pumping me to cover, I'll end the stream here. Y'all have a good one. God bless. And I will see you all next one. That was a terrible ending.